The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here!
Ready for action!
I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is the Angry Chicken.
This is it. This is it, guys. This is the last Angry Chicken of 2016. I do this joke every year on every show. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. Welcome back, guys. It's the Angry Chicken, the podcast all about Hearthstone. No longer Heroes of Warcraft. I'm Garrett Weinzerl. He's Willie Dills Gregory. She's Jocelyn Moffat. And I believe we are a combination of full of Christmas food, sick from sick family members being around us, and tired from too much partying. How you guys doing this holiday season?
Actually, didn't do much partying, but did do traveling yesterday, and it's a little tired from that, but working my way through.
All right, traveling is fun. So you were out in North California again, sir?
Yes, I was back in San Francisco, hanging out with my mom, and realizing that when you go back home now, in your mid-30s, your friends don't have time to come meet you at a bar anymore. So it's not like all those movies you see where everyone's at the local tavern. No, everyone's at home with their children. That was my experience. So, but I had a great time. Saw Star Wars Rogue One. Saw a couple other sweet movies, La La Land. Hung out with my mom. Hung out with my family. It was great. Good times. Played a lot of Hearthstone too, actually. A lot of Arena on my other accounts.
Nice. How's Arena treating you? I would say how's Arena treating you on your other accounts, but it doesn't really matter, does it? What account it's on?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the point. You can play it on your Asian account without it, But I feel like I want to. At some point, we got to get like a dev on and ask him some questions, some inside baseball questions. Because I know you guys don't play a lot.
We can ask them, but
I know. Well, I would love it if like we could figure out a way to get them to come on just to clarify, not crazy stuff, but just some things like, hey, did you make any changes to matchmaking and didn't tell us? Or, because there's some weird stuff going on. I feel like, I had some good runs. I got to like 11 and 12 a few times. In the 12 Dills of Christmas, I got a few 11s, never got a 12. But at like 0 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 1 and 2 and things like that, I used to feel like I was pretty much guaranteed to play against a fairly bad deck. And now that does not seem to be the case anymore. Now, I'll be 0-2 and the guy plays Zombie Chow turn 1 and curves out perfectly. And I'm just like, what? Like, how were you 0 and 2? So something feels different at least. And this is all just, my own experience and definitely not. I didn't go out and play a million games and take data. I just played a bunch of Arena and it just feels different. So
maybe the cards are just overall better now.
Well, but see, with more cards, you would think that technically the decks would get watered down a little bit,
Well, but that's the thing. The water coming in is not actually bad. It's
I see what you're saying.
There's so many good cards now that it's the chances of you getting a bad card.
Yeah, think about how many.
But then why is my deck not awesome? Right? then that's where that argument falls apart. Because I've thought about that, but
now obviously there's no way to know this, Dills. But I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that you're getting salty or anything, but I would put out into the universe that it's very possible that Mr. Perfect Curve turn 1 Zombie Chow possibly drew horribly in his first 2 games.
True. No, this is absolutely true. I could be, it's just variance happens. I could be running up against him, finally running hot with this deck, right? That's absolutely possible.
Yeah, maybe he went 12 and 2 overall.
Sure, yeah, who knows?
Actually, yeah.
The other thing, too, is I would love to get, like, absolute clarification. And, again, we don't have to have a dev on to talk about it, but this is something, like, I'm curious about. After this amount of time playing the game, you think you kind of know how it works. But I'm not sure if it really works like where I go up against another guy who's like let's say I get to 4 wins and I have 2 losses. I don't think I'm necessarily going up against another guy who's 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
He might be 4-0, but we just both have 4 wins, right? And so like I'm just in the 4-win bracket, but I struggled to get to 4, and he's just been cruising. So I don't know. It's all very interesting, but it feels different for some reason. And I haven't been playing as much Arena, but over this little vacation, I just spent a lot of time kind of after things were done. I would just come home and just sit with my iPad, you know, and not stream. So I'm just like, oh, well, I'll just play Arena. So I just played more Arena over like the last week than I have in a while. And it feels different, man. Feels different. I have some questions. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and I think that all comes down to quality of communication, which we've talked about before, right?
Oh,
It's like,
yes. Yeah, we're going to talk
like,
about it later on, too, I think.
all of these little things that we would just, like to know. Just Hearthstone, can you please just tell us somehow?
Write it down somewhere.
Yeah.
Put it on the website. And let me reference it. That'd be great.
Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of it, especially where it comes into like MMR and matchmaking and that kind of stuff that comes into the realm of like trade secret-ish. But I feel like you should be able to give your players enough information that they know who they're going up against, as opposed to giving competitors information about how your background code works. Like there's got to be a fine line there. And right now they're just way too secretive on a lot of things.
I'm with you. And actually, yeah, I think this is all going to come full circle when we get to our strategy segment. So we'll put a pin in it for now. But it was just an interesting experience because we talk about the show all the time, but I played differently than I normally do this little trip. So it was interesting to kind of see things from another perspective. I think it's good to try to do that every now and then, rather than just always kind of follow your bubble of like I play ranked. Standard ranked, and like especially if you're doing a show, it's like you can forget what it's like for the other types of players. So it was kind of nice to see, trying to get a quest done on my Asian account when I couldn't pick, Warlock, so I had to try to build a Warlock deck, and like how impossible that actually was. Like that kind of stuff is interesting to me. So
I got a family friend into Hearthstone over the winter break here, and showed it to him one night at a party. 2 days later. Dude, what's the name of your podcast? Also, what deck should I be working on? I'm addicted to this damn thing, was his text.
Oh, wow, that's good. I've heard opposite stories. I haven't gotten anybody into it in a long time, other than like just through the show. But I definitely have heard horror stories recently on Reddit about how impossible it is for the new player, right? There's a guy who posted that he lost 23 games in a row, trying, with essentially whatever cards he had at the beginning and using like a deck recipe and all that stuff, and I'm like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, boy, we should also make all of our opinions based off the experience of one player.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, that might be like the worst case scenario, but like
he's
should
not
anybody
alone.
have that experience? Like should it anyway, it's crazy, but I'm glad that you found somebody, convinced them, and then they got that feeling, because that's cool, man. That's what I hope everybody has.
I feel like it's been at least a year since I personally converted someone or turned someone onto Hearthstone. I'm going to put on two closely together so no one's like, yeah, I'm going to cap Garrett saying he turned someone on. But
well, now you just screwed.
Yeah, now you just
now
did it.
You separated it out later, but yeah.
Well, the inflection wasn't the same, so it's going to be a noticeable cut. So there you go.
I turned someone on.
Now someone needs to get that.
You cannot do this stuff to me on the last show of the year, because I'm feeling goofy today, man. I was up till 1 a.m. playing pen and paper RPGs last night. I'm a little loopy. I'm a little loopy. Yeah. Hey, before we get going, I did want to give, because it was requested, and I'm sure shout outs have been requested in the past. I just happened to see this one. If you've requested a shout out, you didn't get it. It doesn't mean we don't like you. It just means one of the three of us probably didn't notice it. But Bob requested a shout out, and Bob apparently has many brothers, because he wanted us to give a holiday shout out to his brothers Chris, David, Stevie, and quote Nugget Stanach. So to Bob,
I hope Nugget's a baby.
Yeah.
And not just like a guy that they're still calling Nugget.
I kind of hope it's just the guy that they're still calling Nugget. But happy holidays, guys. Hope it's going well for you. We got one more holiday to survive before 2017.
By the way, real quick before we move into our news segment, Did anybody get any Hearthstone related gifts?
Oh yes.
Chris.
Oh yeah. I'll
We
be right
actually-
back.
We both did.
I'll be right
Yeah?
back.
Okay, yeah, let's check this out. Jocelyn, what'd you get?
Well, I got the replica Hearthstone box for Christmas.
Ooh,
Yeah,
like the
so-
wooden one that's like all nice and stuff.
The official Blizzard one, and actually I
Yeah.
was given it at BlizzCon, so I have it all signed and stuff. So that was my Christmas gift. It's over under the tree, but that was my Christmas
Put your
gift.
weed in that.
Yes.
I mean, you can put like jewelry and lipstick.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry.
Well, it gives you away every time you open it, right? There's no subtlety because it plays the Hearthstone song and it lights up. So
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How have I never seen this in person?
okay, I'll
Wait,
go. I'll go
wait.
get it now that Garrett's
Okay.
back.
You can't
Well,
hit
it's left me.
you can't hit
Yeah.
escape and adjust the volume. That seems unrealistic.
I'll tell you that I got 0 Hearthstone gifts this year, but I did get some sweet gift certificates for golf stuff. So I
Nice.
guess technically what I could do is take them to the golf store, buy some stuff, sell it to another guy, and then buy cards with it. But outside of that, no nerdy stuff for me at all. Except my mom got me a Christmas ornament shaped like a bird, but it's made out of a circuit board. So that was kind of cool.
That's cool. That's
That was
very
the nerdiest
cool.
thing I got.
Okay, you ready for this?
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
This is terrible
So-
for audio listeners, by the way.
Oh, it's gonna get good for them.
We'll describe it. Hearthstone. Oh. What?
That is extremely audible.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
there's no sneaking into the Hearthstone box.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's actually a good thing. You can put your valuables in there.
Yes.
Put next to your bed, and if someone tries to sneak in at night and steal your stuff, we're
Except then
gonna
you're,
have to take this inside.
except
Yeah,
possibly
that would be
instead of
fun.
waking up, you might just start having a Hearthstone dream.
Dude, that could happen.
If I heard that in my sleep and started having a Hearthstone dream, my dream would be hit escape and bring the volume down a little bit. That's what that would be. Katie apparently murdered a Blizzard employee and got me the Hearthstone employee gift from 2 years ago, I believe. And
That's epic.
it's awesome. I love it. The Hearthstone comes off, and you can't really see it because it's so bright in here, but it does glow. It
So
does
is
light up.
what is the Hearthstone itself made out of? Is it like a hard?
It's like a hard, like plastic resin.
Oh, okay.
So
I have that little Hearthstone squeezy ball thing, the stress ball.
Yeah,
It
it looks
almost exactly the same, but much smaller.
Yeah, it
but-
looks very similar, except this one's hard and it has a little battery pack in the back that opens up for the batteries, and this is the on-off switch for the glowing.
Oh, damn. That's awesome. Dude, love that.
Yeah, Katie keeps doing this. She keeps finding me Blizzard gifts that I assume are impossible to find.
Black market.
Because last year, my very first BlizzCon, 2010, I went and they had a StarCraft 2 poker set. And it's one of the coolest damn things I've ever seen at BlizzCon, and they've never had it since, and I didn't buy it, and I've been lamenting it ever since. And last year, Katie somehow found one, unopened, and
Wow.
got that for me. So
Damn.
Yeah,
She's
Kate-
going to the black market auction house. I'm telling you, dude.
apparently, or yeah, I don't know, breaking into Blizzard employees' homes. I'm not sure what it is, but
By the way, I didn't even realize this. Madame Goya is the black market auction house lady.
Yeah.
But I'd forgotten this because it's been so long since I'd used the black market auction house.
I didn't know that.
And I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I can't remember why I looked something up about Madame Goya or something. And I was like, that's what she is. Like, she is from the game.
Oh my god!
She's one of
I
the few
didn't-
characters that is actually from the game.
She's in the underbelly right now. So if you go into New Dalaran, and I think you get a couple of different quests, not necessarily to go to her, but to go to someone in that little kind of fishing area
Yeah.
off to the side down the pipe. Yeah.
I go down there to get
She's still
killed
there.
as I'm trying to run to collect my weekly stupid coins that I don't even know why I need them. Like, I run down there and then somebody murders me as I'm running through. So
You should hire a guard, and then that won't
my
happen.
experience.
Yeah, you could
And
hire
then I
a
get
guard.
turned into a big bird or something. Something weird happens. Yeah, bizarre down there.
Yeah,
put
the
a-
underbelly's weird.
Should put a call out
the
to
underbelly is truly it's like a '60s acid party going on.
60s acid party. We should put a call out for attack listeners to just be your big unruly mob that just escort you around the underbelly safely.
That would be sweet.
But they all have to be giant male Tauren, so they
This
look
is
really
one thing that I'm
imposing.
missing in AIE lately, guys, is these big get a bunch of people together and do something. I don't feel like that happens anymore. You know?
Yeah,
It
or
hasn't happened in a while. I think the last one I did was like back in the summer.
Yeah, that's too long. This should be happening like every weekend when you look. You know?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Indeed.
Why
Indeed.
don't you organize it?
I don't know. That sounds.
There you go.
I'd rather just put it in G chat and then everybody does it. But no, maybe the culture's changed. We'll see.
Nice. Well, shall we move into Hearthstone news?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Good news, everyone!
It's pretty quiet. To be completely honest, it is the holiday silence. This happens pretty much every year around this time. Blizzard employees deserve breaks too, so there's not a whole lot going on right now. But we're going to have the Diablo, just the Diablo 20th anniversary, in apparently every single Blizzard game, including Hearthstone. And we're getting in the case of Hearthstone, it's coming as a Tavern Brawl. We're going to get a Diablo themed card back, and it's going to be Diablo themed Brawl. The card back looks really flippin' cool, guys. I know I know we have a history of being a little lukewarm on card backs because there's a lot of them now, but I kind of really want this card back.
Well, and this is something that we knew, or we have known for a while, right? Ever since the card back was data mined, that you were going to be able to get the Diablo 3. Like, it's been in the collection since Mean Street actually launched. And it says basically, you get this card back for winning the Diablo 3 Brawl. So this wasn't really surprising news, but we didn't actually know when that was going to happen. So.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool, actually, too. You're getting like hell bovines and weapon racks and
a lot of the cards have been spoiled. The chalkboard art has been found, so yeah, it's Diablo is all get out. And it looks like fun, silly type Diablo, which I think it should be if we're going to be enjoying it in Hearthstone.
Hell yeah, absolutely. It would be cool if there's a certain card where when you play it, it's like a bunch of loot pops out of it and goes all around the board or something. I mean, I don't know how deep they're going here with it. We'll see. But it sounds awesome looking through it. It's like you go up against a brand new opponent here. And
yeah, it looks like it's not something you're going to play against another player,
no.
right? It
looks like a
single player brawl.
a PvE type
PvE,
experience.
Yeah.
The,
it says
the hooded stranger with his grim deck.
Yeah.
I dig it. I'm rather excited for it. It's like a mini little adventure scenario in our Tavern Brawl. So the actual 20th anniversary is this Saturday, so I'm assuming next week, unless something awful happens and it gets pushed.
Yeah, they've already done this one, which is the Medivas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did we already have this Medivas one?
Yes.
Or is this a new one?
Yeah, we already...
I feel like it's already happened.
This is a repeat, yes.
Yeah. And it's not that fun, to be honest. I mean, it's a kind of a cool concept, but since it's Thursday, we might as well quickly talk about it. But basically, you play portals. That's all you get. It's portal cards. And the problem is
but different
that
kinds
if
of
the
portals.
game tends to go at all long, everyone's just top decking a portal and hoping that it's a good one, right? And that's what's happened to me like 5 out of 6 times. I feel like is I end up in a scenario where both of us are out of cards because there's no card draw. And I'm just like, okay, what do I get? Oh, damn it, Maelstrom Portal, and then I get a 1-drop. So it's not that fun.
What are you talking about, Dills? You don't like a turn 9 1-drop minion?
Deal 1 damage to all of his huge minions. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why you're so sad.
It's just something's missing. They need to throw in some other cards, not just the portals,
Yeah. But this excites me because, I mean, you guys remember early on that they said there was going to be a lot of, cross-world stuff happening within Hearthstone. And while this it's not like this is confirming that we're getting Diablo cards in Hearthstone, which we kind of are, but not things we can play in constructed or an arena by any means. I like this. I like this a lot. This is something that's been just cool, I think, about Blizzard in the last couple of years, are these cross-platform promotions.
Sure.
And this is
these like one-off kind of cool things.
Yeah, and I think this is the one where it seems like is it going to have the biggest impact in Hearthstone because we have Heroes of the Storm card backs, we have Protoss, StarCraft card backs, but it's never really it's never gone beyond that, right? So this a lot more effort has gone into this. There's a lot of custom cards. I think this is really sweet.
Yeah, and look, they're making custom cards that have nothing to do with World of Warcraft for
They
the
took
first
World
time.
of Warcraft right out of the name of the game, so
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, can we think of this as an indicator?
Getting a little
that
ahead
maybe
of
they're
yourselves.
expanding the world? I don't know. I mean,
I think you're getting a little ahead of yourselves.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, it's the 20th anniversary. I get that, but still, this is the first time that this is really happening. So that's exciting. We talked about it almost instantly on this show when we first started. It was how cool would StarCraft cards be and all that kind of stuff. So now here we go, some Diablo cards. So that's kind of awesome.
Yeah. No.
I mean, somebody was in charge of making Diablo cards. That's all I'm saying. That person
and
really
that
enjoyed
seems
doing
like
it.
a lot of effort if it's only for one-off Tavern Brawl.
Yeah, like I hope this doesn't never come back if it's amazing, right?
But by
Because
the-
we'll never have another 20th anniversary. I guess they could do it every year on the anniversary of Diablo, but
They could, yeah, because and it's tied to a card back, right? So it might be a one-off time.
Yeah. Fun fact though, not the first Diablo reference in Hearthstone.
No,
what is the first Diablo reference?
Murloc Knight.
Oh, okay, sure.
It has the Diablo 3 Crusader armor.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's very subtle, right? That's,
I was pretty
I thought
excited
there
when I
was
saw it
I thought
personally.
there was a card description too that talked about Diablo. I can't remember which one it was. I feel like maybe it was something with like necromancers and knacks and something. I can't remember.
Oh, I'm sure
Google
there is.
will know.
There's so much. There is so much flavor text now. I'm certain.
Yeah.
Certain there's allusions to other Blizzard franchises. So I'm looking forward to this, and I think this is one of the cooler things happening with the Diablo anniversary. I think like StarCraft is just getting a portrait.
As
So,
always.
well,
That's-
that's what StarCraft gets.
That's
Yep.
sad. Very sad. But
No, but it is really cool. All the other stuff too, like the Overwatch stuff, the WoW stuff, it all looks very exciting. So it's gonna be fun. To me, honestly, at this point, Hearthstone has become my main game. So when the events happen is when I jump back into a game like Overwatch and really like play it a lot. And Overwatch is incredibly fun, and at any moment I'll just get a hankering to play it. But it's not a game that I'm like, I come home like, oh man, I can't wait to play some Overwatch. It hasn't become that for me. So when these kind of things happen, that's what gets me to do it again, is to jump back in and check out whatever the new thing is. So the fact that they're doing it, and then sometimes when I do that, then I go, you know what, I'm going to bust out some competitive play because I remember how fun the game is. So the more they do this kind of stuff, the more they get people to cross back over into the other games that they're not necessarily maining, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people do at this point main a Blizzard game and then play all the other ones, whenever.
Here and there, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people who main Heroes and main Overwatch and stuff, and of course World of Warcraft. So
course.
yeah, like Jocelyn.
What can I say? I
great-
have an obsession.
It's a great game.
nothing wrong with World of Warcraft. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Except when I also kind of feel like going back to the Old Republic. Then I'm like, but I still want to play WoW. But I have all these other games
After
I have to
watching
play.
Rogue One, I wanted to play Old Republic so bad.
Oh, don't you? Don't you? Don't you? You would have loved the Star Wars RPG we played last night because it was a very Rogue
Yeah?
One-esque campaign we ran.
Oh man,
That's
like
good.
I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't seen Rogue One, but I really wanted to wield a lightsaber after watching the end of that movie. So
That's a
I
bit
was
of
like, oh, that looks so much fun.
I would argue that's a bit of a spoiler. It's a lightsaber light affair. Rogue One is.
It is
Yeah.
actually. It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a lot of lightsabers,
No.
but hey, not a lot of Jedis. So
No,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, but a whole lot of the Force. All right, enough with the stupid allusions to Rogue One spoilers. Hey, before we move on to our wish list for 2017, which is taking the place of strategies this week, let's thank our patrons one last time for this year who are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. Picked up a few new patrons over the holiday break, which always feels good. Over 500 of you at this point. It's been a wonderful growth over 2016, so thank you everyone for such a fantastic year. And on this episode specifically, thank you to Matt C, Chi KL, Nick B, Slump Nasty, Davisaurus, 2 people in a row I would like to call into question the legality
names.
of their names. Ramanus K, Jacob P, and Andrew B. Thank you all so much for supporting us.
I'd really like to just say to all the patrons, people we've announced on the show, people who haven't been announced yet, the fact that we still have names to announce is pretty incredible. But I would not have been able to buy my parents a present this year. Get something cool for my little cousin, all that kind of stuff, because doing this as a job is difficult, to say the least, and it doesn't happen without you guys being so generous. And we're really thankful for you guys, and it really kind of hits home when the holidays come around. And normally that's when you take whatever extra money you have, and there would be no extra money at all if it wasn't for the fact that you guys have been so supportive. I mean, I wouldn't say it's still extra money, but it is possibly, like, I'm not like out on the streets because of you guys, and like it all hits home. And I just really want to say thank you guys for all of the support the entire year. Like, to start the year strong and end the year strong, it's just incredible. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
What Dills said.
I lost my job at the beginning of the year, and I didn't have to go crawling to get a new one.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you guys.
Essentially, like, that's what happened to us, is we were putting so much into this stuff and I really think that it's because of the, how much we put into this, that the other jobs just kind of, it wasn't like, this terrible thing. It was just kind of like they just faded away, right? Like, the other jobs are just less and less important. And giving all of ourselves and all of our time to this was made possible because of you guys. So
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Normally
I find it amazing still. I was talking to my mom about it. She was like, yeah, I still don't know how to explain what you do.
That's always the issue at the holidays, right?
And I was like, Mom, I don't either, and don't worry about it. But, the other thing she said was like, it's amazing you've been doing it now for a full year, and you're here, and you look like you've been eating. So that's good.
you look like
Thanks,
you've been
Mom.
She
eating.
didn't say it like you've been getting getting fat, but she said like you're not emaciated, and yeah, like I'm not worried about you when I saw you. So
Yep. Yeah. Any other year before this year, having to losing a job would have been a terrifying prospect. But after grabbing a couple extra contracts and then kind of actually looking at the Patreon and being like, no, I can do this. This will work. That was an awesome experience. So thank you, everyone.
it's a good feeling. Thank you guys for that.
Yeah. So with that in mind, now that we've thanked everyone, let's be ungrateful and tell Team 5 everything we really, really want in the game next year.
Let's throw all that goodwill out the window.
Yeah, let's get rid of it. So and we're gonna blame XR because he tweeted out asking what everyone's wishes are for 2017, and by blame XR I mean thank him for writing a good portion of the show for us today. Thank you. So Jocelyn, you actually did a bunch of research for this that I didn't even consider could be researched, which is you went and looked through all of the replies and found the common threads.
Yeah, so it turns out there are about 12 things that the majority of at least the community who responded on Twitter wants from Ixar. These things are things that came up more than once, and some of them are things that we've talked about before. Some of them are brand new, but I think all deserve a bit of a highlight. There was obviously also a whole bunch of stuff that I chose not to highlight, which were the super duper trolly kind of angry.
Out.
There's a lot of anger in this thread as well, but a lot of really good ideas and things that I think that we should talk about.
By the way, there was 680 replies to this tweet, so that's a lot. So
I finally got to the end and I was like, oh my god, it's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
By the way, 680 replies. Only 60 people clicked the like button on his tweet. Like a bunch of people were just like, oh, let me give you a piece of my mind. But not a lot of people were like, hey, I really like the fact that you're even asking in the first place. And I even saw on Reddit a few people being just complete asses and saying, what's the point of even asking us if you don't even listen? It's like, dude, settle down. Like the
this
fact
is them
that
trying to listen.
Yeah. And like this is Ixar kind of stepping out a little bit. This isn't like an official thing. This is a guy who's passionate about what he's doing. And working
Which means
for
it's
Hearthstone.
never going to happen again. He's going to get
he'll
so
still do it. I believe in Ixar. I think Dean is So it was really cool that he did. I was lucky enough to respond to it almost immediately. So actually, when you click his tweet now, you see my response at the very top. So hopefully that means that he also sees my response at the very top because I want the stuff I asked for. Most.
Because I'm sure Ixar is not 100% aware of what you
we want
and us would like.
I know.
Yeah, and
I know.
I actually, there were a couple of things that you wanted, and I think that I didn't include one or two of them because we'd already talked about them a couple of
A
times.
lot of this
so.
has been talked. Yeah, no. I
Yeah.
mean, when he asked, but I'll just say real quick, like his tweet says, what's on your Hearthstone wish list? My response, I'll just blanket it out: tourney mode, new limited modes, true casual mode, and another appearance from him on the Angry Chicken podcast. That was my tweeted response. But now we'll get a little deeper.
Oh, you're so in Blizzard's back pocket, Dills. That was so kind and even-handed, and you didn't rake him over the coals for asking a nice, thought-provoking question.
He was a fantastic guest. I want to have him on many, many times.
I wish. I mean, I would make Dean and Young and Rochelle and Ben just permanent co-hosts if it was possible.
Yeah.
We'd
Rotate.
be talking over each other constantly with that many people on the show regularly, but I'd be okay with it.
And everybody would have itty bitty teeny tiny little videos.
Oh yeah, it would look like Hollywood Squares up in here. It'd be ridiculous. But Joss, take us through the common threads that you noticed, and we'll stop after each one.
Right. So the first one here was, I think, pretty obvious and something that we've been asking for pretty much since the first time it was reworked, but a reworked ladder system or kind of season length. So basically, a lot of people are feeling the same thing, whether they are bottom of the ladder players or top of the ladder legend players. It doesn't really matter one way or another. They are unhappy with how the ladder system works, mostly tied to the fact that it's such a grind from the start of the season, with even with your bonus stars, to get all the way back up to where you kind of belong as determined by your skill. And this is something that we've talked about quite a few times. And so one of the suggestions that a lot of people have said is, like, just make the season longer, you know, like make it 2 months, 3 months, whatever, make it a quarterly season, you know, just something that either gives you more time to grind and so more time to play at your respective level, or just something along the lines, because getting reset every month just feels bad for everyone. It feels bad for the players at the bottom who have to play against legend players. It feels bad for the players at the top who have to start all the way down and play 100 games to get to where they should be. So reworked ladder system was like number one.
I think though there's a couple of ways you can look at this, and one is obviously like increase the season length so there's less resets would be a welcome, you know, just a welcome change, just without doing anything else. I think that would probably improve some of the frustration of just having to do it all the time. Unfortunately, we also have this new HCT system, which doesn't really allow that to suddenly happen right now because we've already started. People have earned points. The people who earned points in the first few seasons would essentially have an advantage if they suddenly went to 2-month seasons or something like that. Yeah. So I think we can throw that out as a possibility for any time in the future, or at least in the next year. But I think the biggest issue that I see is not necessarily the star system or whatever it might be. It's just that matchmaking, like you said, ends up where a person, like your opponent is someone you shouldn't necessarily ever play against, right? Someone who has a smaller collection than you, someone who has a lower skill level than you or a higher skill level. Just the fact that it's so vastly different, the levels of skill that you end up actually playing against somebody, like, you know, the legend players cruise through until 5, and then they start to hit kind of a normal win rate, and then they get to the legend ladder, and then that's when the real grind begins. And that shouldn't exist at all within a season, technically. So, you know, I don't necessarily know if the answer is always changing the star system or whatever. They could definitely work within that star system. But I think if you just fixed matchmaking, that would also do a great deal, right? Because
even if it was like it remembered your rank from last season or something. So even if you're playing at rank 17, it puts you up against another legend player.
Yeah,
and then
if
I was ranked,
right.
if I was rank 17 last season and that was my highest place, then I get placed against other rank 17 players, you know, like as opposed to a legend versus a rank 17, because that's not fun for anyone, you know. That's a waste of time for the legend player and a total beatdown for the rank 17 player. So both of them are like, why are we even playing this game?
Yeah, and the other issue too is that you know, it's like the fact that you have this grind that matters but doesn't matter. Like it's literally a time suck, right? And so it's not doing anything. It's not actually competitively separating anybody. It's just who's putting the time in. So even if like your scenarios is in place, Jocelyn, I could have just not played for a month, come back. I'm still an equally skilled player, maybe slightly less because I'm a little out of practice, but now I'm considered a rank 17 player. that still doesn't quite fix the problem, right? So it's like true MMR, I think, is the only real way to do it. Like actually just using the number where you go up and you go down and you go up and you go down and you just play somebody who's within, 15, 20 points of you. Is really the only way to like fix true matchmaking. But
well,
again,
and that's what they basically said, is that there is no MMR in Hearthstone. Like your MMR is your rank, so there's no kind of measurement on the back end.
There is, because when you enter Legend, where you enter, the number you enter is based on your hidden MMR, right? And then how you move up or down in Legend, you can win 5 times in a row at rank 2 Legend and not surpass rank 1. Even if they're not playing, because their MMR is just like that much higher than you, right? So you're catching up, but you're never quite crossing. So it is there.
That's true.
Just not used during the star.
Yeah, they don't use it in the star portion. Yeah.
So, it is what it is right now. It's not terrible, but it's clear that a lot of people are not happy with it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've come around a bit on like utilizing MMR to a certain degree. I think Hearthstone needs it significantly less than all of the other Blizzard games that use it because of the nature of a card game. I mean, how many times on the show have we said, well, if I drew well enough and life coach, Osaka, whatever example you'd like to pull out, drew bad enough, I could beat some of the best players in the world, because that's how card games work.
Yeah, or you could just play really well or have a good matchup or whatever. You could beat those guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. So at its current moment, and I'm throwing the other side of the coin. I would like something to happen with the ladder as well. But that being said, the current system rewards consistency, and that's the system you need to have in a card game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually don't think that what we really want is a carbon copy of, say, Heroes of the Storm or even like Overwatch, right? But I think right now in its current form, there's too many bad games, right? There's too many games where you're playing against an opponent you technically shouldn't get matched up against ever. And so, however they actually, like, they can keep the stars, shorten that grind or something. Don't take away win streaks at 5. Something that just kind of gets people to that point where the competitive players just get there faster, get out of everyone else's way, and everyone else can just kind of enjoy themselves. The other problem, too, is like we talked about at the beginning of the show, new players, even at, say, like rank 20, you're up against solid net deck, perfect meta decks a lot of the times now, because the game has been around for so long. A lot of these players, even at rank 20, have collected the cards and they have all the stuff. And then a new player comes in and maybe they're like really jazzed about Hearthstone and they're playing a ton and it took them a long time. They can't lose any stars. They get to rank 20 and then they could just never progress ever again past that point, because everyone else they're playing against has all the cards and has a perfect net deck, and they don't even know about net decks yet. And so, those people aren't having a good time either. So it's like, I just feel like I want players to face other players with like similar collections. It's like if you played Magic, you wouldn't go join like a modern tournament with your Pauper deck, right? Like you just wouldn't do that. Like you wouldn't show with a bunch of so Pauper decks are like a bunch of common cards, and then like a modern tournament, you're gonna see a bunch of like
Pauper
decks.
like poor person. I thought you meant Pauper like pop, like Pauper.
No. Yeah.
And I was
but like you
what?
wouldn't go join. You wouldn't try to like take on a guy with an amazing net decked, perfect. He's got all the all the legend. Well, in Hearthstone legendaries, you wouldn't play against that guy with your deck full of basic cards, because you just don't have a chance, right? But in Hearthstone, that happens all the time. And this guy is still using the basic mage deck. He doesn't even know how to play all the other classes. And he's playing against the guy who's playing Reno Lock with everything, and he's like the guy Leroy, Power Overwhelming, Faceless, and he's like, what is that? What just happened? Like, how did I just die?
Yeah.
So that shouldn't happen.
I think you touched on something with the current ladder that is a little bit weird, and it's that it has 2 sections of the ladder. Well, I guess 3 sections of the ladder, 4 if you count Legend, that they just don't all work the same. You've got the spots at the bottom where you can't lose any stars. You've got the spot in the middle with the win streaks. You've got the spot at the top where win streaks are now gone. And it's just like there's all these different things at these different points of the ladder that you're just like, why? Why do you have all of these things? Why don't we just have a ladder where once you hit a certain rank, you can't drop below it anymore? Like that's how Legend works. So like if I hit rank 3, then I just can't ever be rank 4 again. I'm just rank 3, and then I can still, gain and lose my stars in rank 3, but I can't ever be rank 4 until whatever reset they decide is good happens, just stuff like that. It's weird that there's different parts of the ladder that work in different ways.
It was it came up recently, right? The discussion of the rank distribution again. I mean, I don't think they've posted an infographic since 2 years ago now, since 2014. But when they did, that was saying that 15 to 10 was just below 18% of the player, the top 18% of the player base, and 15 to 25 was 75% of the player base. And it came up recently, I think Ben Bro was talking about on Twitter. I don't have the quote in front of me, so I'm going to butcher it, but something about how maybe it right now rank 15 doesn't feel like as much of accomplishment as much of an accomplishment as it is. Yeah, that's something I'd like to see revisited.
Well, it tells you at the end of every month, doesn't it? Like you
place it during a month. You can hover over the thing and see what percentage you're at.
Yeah, but
right?
But does that? The gamification of it seems really flippin' weird. I mean, Overwatch, I think, realized that their gamification was rather short-sighted and not that fun, and they fixed it rather quickly. And here we are 3 years later with the exact same ladder system that Hearthstone launched with, that the devs themselves have said that, there could be improvements. And the through line for me, I think, on everything we're going to talk about right now is I would just like to see iteration. I would like to see them test things. Sure. Because that's what all the other changes. That's what many of the other Blizzard games are doing right now. The next point that you have on here, Jocelyn, is Jeff Kaplan-esque videos. And I think that's all well and good. That's a good thing to request. Ben Brode was doing something like that for a while, but I think the big reason that the Jeff Kaplan videos actually land positively for the most part on the community is because whatever he talks about, we see in Overwatch relatively quickly after he talks about it. And they test things, and they'll put things into the game and say, we're not sure. We'll test it for this season and see where we go with it. Heroes of the Storm recently did the exact same thing with the Hero League being solo queue only. They're like, we're testing this. It's going to be for the whole season. We're not guaranteeing it's going to be for every season from here on out. And I much prefer that. I just want to see them try things.
Well, and I think that that's why people are asking specifically for Jeff Kaplan type videos, is because those other teams are doing a really good job of communicating what they're actually going to do. I find with Brode's videos, although they're awesome, they explain some of the thought process behind game design, which is not necessarily the same thing as saying, we're going to try tournament mode, or we're going to try this, or this is up and coming. It's a different kind of communication and a different kind of look behind the curtain. And I don't necessarily think that that's what Hearthstone fans want. They want more like what the Heroes team is doing, and more like what the Overwatch team is doing, with information about upcoming changes, why they're doing it, how long it's going to be here. And we just don't get that from Hearthstone.
Yeah.
I'll say that the reason it might be is because it takes them so much longer to make changes. Like, I think based on like what you're talking about, Garrett, with these other games, that the video comes out and then the changes happen pretty soon afterwards. It would likely be that if Hearthstone had a better core system, right? Like if it was written, on a different platform and it was easier to change, we might see more of these videos. But because changes seem to take so long, I feel like there's an engineering portion to this that's not just they don't want to communicate, but we can't communicate and then not have the thing come out, right? So it, like Jeff Kaplan can come on and say, here's some stuff we're doing, and then it comes out because they like built all their stuff and it's all working, right? And they can make changes, and I feel like maybe Hearthstone just can't make changes as quickly. So it's like it's a problem for them to come out and talk to us all the time when the game actually cannot be iterated on as fast,
Well, if that's the case, that's a bigger problem that needs to be addressed, in my opinion.
Yes,
I think saying, well, our game is too clumsy to rapidly iterate, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, and I think UI and basically like a new client and all of that kind of stuff, that's almost like a whole other discussion, because I think that, and we've had it before in the past, and I think that's really...
I'm only introducing it as a possible reason why we don't see it as much, and not necessarily like I'm not saying that like I wouldn't just assume that they're just like lazy and don't want to put out videos, because I think they do, right?
It wasn't.
But
Was
I
so
think,
not what I
within
was
the
saying.
limitations of the game itself, it doesn't make sense right now. So.
Yeah, that was not my point, but I appreciate
Oh no,
the counter argument.
Yeah. I'm not saying you said that. But I think some people think that. I think there are definitely people in the community that think they just don't want to talk to us.
Well, also some people want to yell at Ixar for asking a question. So I mean,
yeah, it's true. No, there's douches out there, but there's generally a reasonable answer most of the time, and I think they're probably a little bit shackled.
Yeah, no, and
by their client,
and we don't know for sure, and that is it. All I can tell you is what it looks like to me as an outsider, and why I'm confused. I'm confused because when we heard the story of Team 5, they were this small team that it sounded like their whole goal was to be nimble and make something we hadn't seen at a Blizzard before.
Yeah.
And instead, they seem to be more shackled, more stuck in concrete than any other team at Blizzard.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they have one of the most popular games at Blizzard.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, the popularity of Blizzard games is huge, but Hearthstone has really kind of done something surprising with a game that wasn't necessarily intended to be as huge as it is. It is that huge now, and so it needs to be treated as such, I think.
Yeah, and speaking of client changes and how huge it's gotten, that was probably the next most requested feature outside of a reworked ladder system was in fact a tournament mode, which I don't think we're going to see in the restrictions of the current client, basically.
I don't think we're going to see like our dream tournament mode. But I do feel like within 2017 we will see some sort of a competitive option that is not the ladder. I really do think we're going to see that. And whether that means heroic Tavern Brawl all year round or something like that, or some version of that, that would still be a step in the right direction. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see our kind of sandbox tournament mode. Here's your tournament code. Now pick your decks. Now whatever, like all the things that we kind of want to make our jobs easier.
I was going to say, Dills, you're going to make me cry.
Yeah.
All those things that you really want, Joss, it's just never happening.
I mean, we all want it. Like, I mean, but the true great tournament mode is one where, I could just log in as a player and just join a tournament, and also you can log in as a tournament admin and create a tournament, and all of those things are kind of happening at all times, right? Like 24/7, there's tournaments going on. You can just create private tournaments, all the stuff. Like it's like Battlefy just gets dropped into Hearthstone. What we want, but I do think we will see some sort of extra competitive mode this year. I mean, 2017 is a long year. We should, we should be able to see some stuff happen here.
Give me a
talk for so long now, and we actually saw the heroic Tavern Brawl getting released and tested. So something will happen, I think.
Give me a third-party application like what they're doing in China. I don't care.
Exactly. Well, that's the other thing.
Just
That's
something.
another indicator, right? The fact that in China that is being essentially tested, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing you have on here, Joss, I would spend more time on tournament mode, but I think we've talked it to death this year.
We've talked it to death, yeah.
Is more stats visible to the players and the community. Yeah. I wouldn't put it this high on my own personal list, but I would always love more stats.
No, but it would be cool. The other thing that they could do, I think, is if we had an API, people like Vicious Syndicate could do something, right? That would be cool. So, like there's other ways to do this without necessarily doing all the legwork themselves. Because already, like that's, if you look at the Vicious Syndicate meta report, right? They have not only, how many games were played at each rank with each deck and all that kind of stuff, but the matchups at different ranks and all this kind of stuff. And it's a pretty comprehensive look at stats in the meta report. I think what we kind of want in the game is to be able to see, like, how many times I've played Leroy Jenkins or weird stuff like that, right? But
well, yeah, and it was kind of a combination of what people were asking for. Some of it was that kind of fun sort of stuff where, very similar to some of the achievements in other games, or, in Warcraft, you can go and see your player stats and see like number of times
how many times you've died in the battle.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. So there was some people asking for something like that, and then other people asking for things like win rates and stat tracking and how many games I've played this season, and a little bit more useful stats, basically like Hearthstone deck tracker in the Hearthstone client.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like this could all be done by somebody else if an API was essentially released. Because we know that they have the information, right? We know that they are tracking it. So it's really just at this point a limitation of putting a UI out that shows us this information. But we know that, from previous BlizzCons, they know if you draw and play this card, your win rate is this, right? Like, so this card is the best card in Hearthstone. This card is the worst card in Hearthstone. They have that information.
Well, yeah, that's how they track all their nerfs. I was going to say buffs, but we have an email about that later. They don't buff, so but that's how they
haven't
make
buffed since Unleash the Hounds, I believe. Is that the last one? Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah,
but again, like that'd be cool. It'd just be fun to look at.
Yep. Moving on, Joss. What's next?
So the next thing that everyone was kind of asking for was some sort of free-to-play card rotation or a smaller, more frequent release or patches. And I thought everyone wanted to get rid of patches, but apparently people want patches.
Oh my God, that's like a joke. That is a video game dad joke. You just somehow crafted a geek dad joke.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
God,
so
that's fine.
That's corny on so many levels. Yeah, actually, again, not a free-to-play player, so it shouldn't surprise a lot of folks out there that this never really crossed my mind. But free-to-play card rotation, that has never crossed my mind, and that seems genius.
Well, you could have a free-to-play format, right? Where essentially you can have like one legendary allowed in your deck or something. Like they could do all sorts of stuff. There's so many possibilities, honestly, in a card game, format-wise. There's tons of things you can do. So you could even have like a free-to-play ladder, essentially a pauper ladder. That you could do all that kind of stuff if you wanted to. I think one of the things they might be concerned with is breaking up the player base a little bit too much and then causing extended queue times. But I think that a bunch of free-to-play players would much rather sit in a queue for an extra few seconds than have to play against a deck they don't feel like they can beat, right? So while it does maybe have some issues on the backside of it that maybe people don't think about, I think those are probably worth. So I'd love to see something like that. It'd be very cool. And also, I like the idea of rotating cards in and out, not necessarily based on just this predetermined once a year thing. Like just kind of do it, bi-monthly or something would be kind of fun. I'd be into it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's basically a lot of people just wanted to see shakeups really to the meta that aren't tied to just the big releases, because we've been kind of given the release schedule, or at least told that that's what's going to happen. It's what happened in 2016 is, 2 big expansions and 1 adventure. And so 3 meta shakeups over the course of a year. And especially now where we have an expansion release in December, then our next expansion may not come for another, 4 or 5 months. Like, we don't actually know when spring 2017 is going to be. So to kind of have those big breaks with no changes, especially like right now, everyone's so sick of just patches all the time in Pirates that,
the pirate package.
Yeah. That thinking that, having to play, I am in charge now, like every freaking game for the next 4 months just makes people cringe and not want to play the game, and that's a problem. So they're looking for more frequent changes to the meta that will make things like that rotate out faster so that they have more to look forward to.
Yeah. I think you can definitely just kind of point to the fact that they don't seem to want to make more formats, because more formats would just kind of solve this, again, it's like, I'm bringing up Magic here, but Magic has tons of formats, and there's kind of one for everybody, right? So, you don't feel like you're forced into playing Standard. You could still consider Standard like this is the one, we consider the champion comes out of this format. But there's lots of players who just play the game differently and are never going to be able to feel like they can compete on an even level in that one format, right? And when you only offer that in Wild, and then you treat Wild like it doesn't even matter or exist, then a lot of people just feel frustrated. So yeah, absolutely. Like, let's just more things for more people.
It's really funny because as I was going through all of these tweets, your tweet about Wild was like the only one.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, yeah. But I think people would consider Wild more if Blizzard considered it more, right? I completely agree. Ignore it because Blizzard ignores it, right? So.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something else that Blizzard seems to completely ignore, at least from Twitter's perspective, is international broadcasts. Basically broadcasting in languages other than English, but also having, other large language type broadcasts with actual personalities and casters whose native language it is. I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's huge from like a broadcasting investment standpoint from Blizzard's perspective, but obviously like the only broadcast language that Blizzard does for big major tournaments is English. So
yeah, well, if you think about you compare this to like World Wrestling Entertainment, right? Well, they don't do necessarily like a German and a Japanese and a whatever broadcast. Like they have like English and Spanish for like the main shows.
But hold on,
but when a big pay-per-view comes along, they have them all. Right?
I was under the impression that the Spanish language table was just there to have people thrown through it.
So, yes,
it happens every pay-per-view.
Correct. But it's like when they have the big paper, like WrestleMania, like at the beginning, they're like, we got 40 different languages, and so for big tournaments, like it would be cool. You do see a small market essentially being made available to, like if you watch a big tournament, there will oftentimes you scroll down a bunch, the main one has like 60,000 people, but then you go like pretty far down, there's one with like 2,000, and it says like Russian, and it's just two guys putting on the broadcast and then casting it in Russian. Mm-hmm. So there is like a market for people to do it kind of, on their own, but you're right. It's not really supported by Blizzard, and that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that's hard. The thing, what Blizzard does is it's all specifically English casters. So it would be cool to see like, on one side you've got the English casting desk, and then on the other side you've got like, say, the Chinese casting desk. And it would be cool to have personalities able to feel like they can be official Blizzard personalities the same way that like Frodan is, but for the Chinese market. I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah, they do that for StarCraft. There's the Korean casters and the English casters pretty much at every Blizzard event. If you go into the arena at BlizzCon, you can see both casting desks.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if the reason why we're not seeing it is because obviously in StarCraft you have to, because the Korean market is huge.
The Korean market is so big.
Maybe we're just not. They don't feel like there's a market big enough. For them to do it. So.
That's probably it. But it's hard. How can you not sympathize with this, right? Because it's very easy to put yourself in their shoes. Imagine we didn't understand the only language Hearthstone is broadcast in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that would suck.
It would. And like the point too here, I think that is important to note is that it would be bigger in other. Right now, a lot of the independent tournaments are all done in Europe, right? As far as actually like major tournaments in America, you don't see too many that aren't put on by Blizzard. But in, like Seat Story recently and all that kind of stuff, like those kind of happen pretty frequently in European countries. And so they are broadcasting it in whatever language, but if Blizzard was making these tournaments bigger and then putting them out in all the different languages, you might see more growth in other countries, right? So,
yeah. And I mean, Jocelyn, you brought it up right at the get-go, which is it's expensive. You're paying more talent, which I completely understand. But you need to start somewhere, right? It's like I get like where do you stop? At what point do you stop adding casters in different languages? But it's something you need to start somewhere, and I'm sure it would be relatively easy for them to figure out where they should start. I'm sure they get to go.
I'd probably start with China.
I would.
Well,
too.
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that to me, you've got 4 people going to BlizzCon every year from China. They are a huge region. There's a lot of people that play. They do a lot of content on their own, and it would be really cool to see. I think that would be the first one that pops into my head as like the next biggest, because Europe it's a little bit different. It's kind of hard because they have so many potential languages, but there's 2 in China. There's 2 different versions of Chinese, like Cantonese and Mandarin. So technically 2 different languages, but yeah. So I feel like China is the kind of go-to obvious choice to me, because in Europe you've got German, French, Spanish, Greek, Italian. There's so many different options.
But they all pretty much speak English, though. I think which might be one of the reasons you don't see that happening as far as Europe is concerned. But like China, they don't all speak English. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you wanted to look into getting different European languages, that's something you could research. And I'm sure find out where to start, where the vast majority of your listeners are, what the most commonly spoken language in those areas are. But I feel for them because this would stink if this was me.
Well, and it's something we haven't really talked about before.
Yeah, well, because it doesn't affect us, right?
broadcasters.
It doesn't affect us. And if this is and chances are anyone who is affected by this isn't listening to this show either.
That's true.
You know what though? I've had many people come into my stream and tell me that they listen to this to TAC, but they are from some other country and English is not their first language. So it does happen a little, but you're right. It's not.
Well, that's very true. But chances are
not the greatest percentage.
I would assume if they can comprehend the English language enough to be able to listen to Angry Chicken, that they can pick up an English language Hearthstone stream and be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, it doesn't really affect those people as much, but
yeah.
There are a lot of people though now like learning English through podcasting and Twitch and stuff like that. It's kind of great. Eloise is like a great example of this, right? She's basically learned English through Twitch chat. She speaks in memes at this point. But
I was about to say it's its own language. I mean,
yeah. Have you ever tried, by the way, taking the client and putting it on a different language and just playing the cards because you know all the cards anyway, and just kind of do it for fun?
Mm-hmm. German is hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, because the cards come out and they yell
and they have voice acting in those.
Yeah.
Yeah. The localization in the game itself is rather fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Joss, what's next on the list?
This one kind of goes along with tournament mode, but just basically the ability to challenge friends with arena decks, which is something that we've talked about.
Wait, did
quite
Garrett
a
tweet
lot.
at him multiple times or something? What happened?
I think
other people were tweeting this at Ixar?
This may have been my first
right.
and most frequent request of the Hearthstone dev team. Hey, can I challenge my friend with arena decks? Also, simultaneously make arena tournaments possible at all in any way, shape, or form. Please and thank you.
Well, because that's kind of, as soon as you can challenge in any kind of mode, then you can have a tournament in it, right? Because that's just how people run tournaments right now in standard is as long as you can friend somebody and you can do a standard challenge, then you can run a tournament. So that's why kind of being able to challenge friends with arena decks kind of goes hand in hand with just tournaments in general.
Yeah. Please.
The next thing that we had was a little bit more kind of, complexity added to Hearthstone, kind of the ability to move away from net decking by the team specifically making more use of cards that have discover mechanics or are very, positioning makes a big difference, or cards that reward risk-taking, so something along the lines of, pre-nerfed Molten Giant, where, you're making the gamble with your health in order to get a big minion out sooner. Just things like that kind of, or I would say Kazakus would be another example, something where, you can't just put it in your deck and play it on curve and you're done. So more things that make the player make more decisions.
I feel like asking for multiple Kazakuses is maybe a request that if I was a designer would make me go, do you know how long it took to make this one card?
But I think really the gist of what's being asked for here is just like the game is better when you have more decisions to make, right? Like the game when there's less things that are just kind of out of your control, right? Like a card like Rag is fine when it's kind of one of the only cards that exist that's like Rag, and it costs so much to play it, and it's so easily answerable. It's kind of okay, right? But then when you have, like what happened, we saw after GVG into the Grand Tournament, into the more recent stuff where we've seen it kind of move away in Mean Streets of Gadgetzan is the decision making has kind of come back and the randomness has been taken away. So I think really like just people are asking for them to continue down this road of making decisions, right? Like I'd love to see some graveyard mechanics. I'd love to see some locating cards in your deck mechanics like we've started to see. I think more stuff like that is all very cool because you can then start to make more intricate decisions rather than, well, this card's amazing when the RNG goes my way. And that's like the game starts to get more and more frustrating the more randomness without decision making there is. So I think really that's just people are like, I think this is reinforcing the direction that they've already been going more than anything is. The Discover stuff is great. The positioning stuff is great. It adds depth. So continue to add depth and continue to say that when I play better, I tend to win. Right. So yeah, more stuff like Kazakus. Nobody's complained about Kazakus. That card is amazing. People love that friggin' card. So they're obviously onto something.
And it's fun. And there's randomness involved. Like It's all good. Yeah.
But the randomness feels more controlled, right?
Right.
Like
Yes.
You can still, even if you don't get the perfect one that you wanted, you can still find one that works. You
Yeah,
know?
and there's skill involved in choosing from not your dream scenario, right?
Yeah.
And still making something that works.
Or
something
deciding when to play Kazakus, deciding like how long do you hold back on it, and when do you play, like when do you take your entire turn to play the Kazakus spell. Like the decision making doesn't just stop at like the decisions you make once you play Kazakus.
Yeah,
There's
that is
all
such
kinds of
a-
stuff surrounding it. It's great.
such a loaded card, and I
It's
like
a fantastic card though. It's so good.
Yeah,
But
but
you also have to build a deck that supports it, right? Like it's everything about that card just makes it a skillful card. That's very cool. And we're seeing the rise of right now. We're seeing the rise of Reno Mage because people are starting to finally figure that deck out. When it first came out, people were like, "This deck sucks." Reno Lock is where it's at, But now it's starting to come back. We're seeing a lot of it in some recent tournaments. And again, it kind of comes back to a card like that makes a deck go, and that's a really cool thing.
yeah, and I want to emphasize something I think you touched on, Dills, which is that you kind of made the point that they're already on this track. And I agree.
Yes.
I think they're on this track. I think it's a really good track that they're on. It's easy, I think, when we're listing like, things we would like to lean into a negative fashion. But this is something where I'm like, well, I think they're already doing this, and I would just like them to keep doing it.
No, this is one that doesn't feel like negative feedback. It feels like reinforcement, right? So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were actually some comments that were like, "Go Hearthstone team."
Yeah, you're doing a great
You're
job.
doing fine. Yeah, it wasn't all negative stuff. But one of the other things that was very much requested, and I know we've talked about it on the game before, or on the podcast before.
We talked about it on this game.
There's a call out there for clans, teams, or guilds, however they want to set it up, and a way to chat and or challenge within them. So the idea that basically we could make an Angry Chicken clan, and then Dills wouldn't necessarily have to be on my friends list, but if we're in the same clan, I could be like, hey, do you want to play a game? I challenge you, let's go play a game. So, more social aspects within Hearthstone, which is something that, say, Heroes of the Storm has had, I think, a lot of success with.
Yeah, and they don't even have clans yet, but even without them, they're doing okay without
But just chat rooms.
Just chat channels is enough,
channels,
right?
yeah.
Like chat channels kind of fixes because you just make your own clans up. Again, this would fix a lot of the issues that I have with the fact that the 200-person friends list isn't enough, right? And
Again, not
there's
everyone
so
has
many
that
issues.
issue, though.
What's that?
That's not a common issue.
It
I
isn't
think.
a common issue, but it
issue for
does come up.
tournaments, though.
And I know that a lot of in the professional scene, like these guys play a lot of tournaments, and then over time their list fills up, and they're not even they're not necessarily streamers and stuff. It's just they play so many tournaments they have to keep adding people, adding people. Then I gotta delete somebody, and you just throw this all out. Like in Heroes of the Storm, I don't have to worry about if you're on my friends list because you chatted, okay, right click, invite, and that stuff makes things a lot easier. So more social features just in general, I think would be positive for the game for sure. Frodan's talked about this a lot, by the way, that he thinks the game is lacking a lot of social features.
It's lacking any, really, besides...
Yeah, pretty much any.
Besides Spectate.
Outside of the friends list.
Yeah, the Spectate and they're like, 2 quests, I think, that just play a friend or watch a friend.
Yep.
And that's about as far as it goes. But that's okay.
Yeah.
That just leaves us with the task of creating communities, and it's worked out pretty well for us, but still, I would totally love these features in the game.
Speaking of things that people would like to do with friends, 2v2 came up a lot. Which I don't know. We've had 2v PvE boss before, the Mechazod Brawl. But I don't know, 2v2, this seems like insane. I don't even know how you would go about playing a game of Hearthstone
It's
2v2.
actually
Is this
not
a
that
Magic thing?
Yes.
Yeah, well, in Magic you
Okay.
can play
I don't like it, by the way.
6 players or whatever. You can do whatever. The two-headed giant form in Magic is not a hugely popular format, to be honest, because it's a little odd. It doesn't work as well. But things like it's really fun to play 4 players all playing each other, and that's incredibly fun. I don't think it would translate the same to Hearthstone because in Magic you're all sitting around a table and you're just kind of conversating, and that's really what makes it super fun, right? So in Hearthstone 2v2, first of all, they have to build an entire new board for it. how does this work on mobile, all that kind of stuff. It's not as
and
simple, I think, as people might think it is.
That's actually kind of an interesting, and it's come up a couple of different times. It's kind of an interesting point. Does the mobile client, I literally actually have a sticky note from our last episode because I wanted to talk about this, but does the mobile client even have to be exactly the same as the PC client? Like, do you have to have
It doesn't, but they want it to be. They
I know
actually
they
come
want
out
it
and
to
said
be.
they want it to be. So,
But
you know.
I'm wondering if maybe that's a mistake because it is so limiting to a lot of these other features.
Sure.
It's limiting to tournament mode. It's limiting to 2v2. It's just so many things that we want. Even some of the social aspects with like clans and guilds and things that we're talking about with chat rooms. That'd be a pain in the ass to do on mobile. So
Don't do it on mobile? Yeah,
Don't
no,
do it on
dude,
mobile.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think that you shouldn't limit yourself at all. I think Hearthstone should not be saying that we need it to work this way. It need, you know, things like they said they didn't want to nerf cards and stuff like for so long. Like, and when they did, it actually was pretty good. Like, it was a good thing to be doing. Just don't ever put yourself in a box where you can't do something because you said you wouldn't. Like, just don't say it. Don't say you're not going to do anything because you just won't. And then you have so much more freedom, and you can just do whatever feels right.
I want
so
the opposite.
I'm with you, man. I think screw that, dude. If you can't do it on mobile, but it would be cool, just don't do it on mobile and do it on the PC.
Exactly. And I mean, you could still have your same collection and everything else. There's no reason to, you know, split your accounts or anything silly like that. But if you could just have, you know, your standard wild ladder, your arena, and your Tavern Brawl, and that's where mobile ends, like that's still 4 really fun ways to play Hearthstone that you can do on the go. There's really no reason to say that mobile has to be included in everything because that means that no one gets anything and that's not fun for anyone.
And for a lot of this too, it's like specifically the phones that become the real problem. I mean, any of this on the tablet it's the exact same game you're playing. You don't have the mini hand that you have to bring up.
I was playing
it's true.
over the
It's
holiday on my phone and I was like
deleted it off
not
my
having
phone.
I was
Yeah.
not having fun. Yeah.
No.
I
It's
still have
great on my iPad, but
Yeah.
On the iPad,
it's not fun to play on my phone. So I just, you know, and I know a lot of people do play it on the phone and they have fun and whatever, but that's great for them. But, you know,
Yeah.
I still like to play on my computer. That's my preferred way to play Hearthstone.
Yeah.
I
I
just
jade
enjoy it
lightninged my own face by accident because I couldn't get it back into the hand properly because I have really
Yeah.
long fingernails. So
If you drag
it's
it
a
out
problem,
and you're trying to put
okay?
it back in and then some, it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
touchscreens, man. Touchscreens.
Yeah. So another thing that the community was looking for is achievements or something to aim for after 500 wins, which I think is something they've even said is they're working on. It's coming soon. TM, I believe, a couple months ago we got a news story saying that this was something that they were working on. Am I just like wishful thinking, or do you guys remember this too?
We've heard about stuff like this for a long time, and I agree. Like, I don't play Hunter, Warrior, and Warlock very much anymore because I've already achieved 500 wins on them. So I feel
I
like
hear
I'm
this.
wasting my time. So
I hear
it
that
would be nice
sentiment.
to feel like I'm still accomplishing something. It'd be great.
I hear that sentiment a lot from a lot of different players. That, oh, well, I have my golden hero. Why should I keep playing? And it's like, well, depends on what your goal is, right? If your goal is golden hero, you're out of
to
luck.
win.
But
Probably don't stop playing Warlock because it's
yeah.
still pretty good. But
yeah, absolutely. But I get that. I jump around so much. This isn't something that particularly affects me, but I would always love more achievements. Again, one of the things that's really low on my personal wish list, but wouldn't be angry if it got added. It'd be
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Speaking of things that people probably wouldn't be angry if they got added, we had more calls again for DKs and monks as well as alternate hero portraits.
That's
which I
cool.
think-
Just moving past because it ain't happening anytime soon.
Yeah, but I think there's got to be a certain point when it just makes sense to add more classes. Like Magic has had 5 colors forever, and there's no real need to add more colors because what Magic has that this game doesn't have, and maybe like tri-class stuff was a little bit of a move in this direction, is the fact that because there are 5 colors, there's actually 40 different types. It's like there's a ton of classes because you can not only have blue black, but you can also have blue black white. You can just keep adding in whatever. You can play a 5-color deck. You can be all the things all at once. You can do that. Things get a little bit more complicated. You have to really work on your mana base, all that kind of stuff. But in Hearthstone, you feel very limited sometimes when there's just these 9 classes after playing for this amount of time. I can definitely say for sure that sometimes I log into stream and I'm like, what deck should I play? And I start looking through the class. I'm like, I've kind of done all of this stuff, And the ability to mix and match would be really cool. But also, if there was a brand new class added, it suddenly, like one new class being added, spices up the whole damn thing, right? So I understand why it's not happening and that it won't happen for a long time, but it still would be very cool. So
we have demon hunters now too, so I mean that's kind of a third class. So from a layout perspective, that's another row of 3.
Yeah, more thing. Yeah, but adding 3 at the same time. Ooh, I pity the fool who tries to do that. But.
This is something I would love. There's so many other things I want more, though.
Yeah,
than more classes.
I agree. There's a lot of things that the game needs before it needs this, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I know what Garrett wants the most, and I swear to God, he made a fake Twitter account because one dude responded to Ixar and just said, Arthas. So I think that was Garrett.
It's straight up untrue because I don't hide my my man love for the fictional Lich King.
Well, then I think I found your soulmate.
Well, Arthas you can't really add until you add DKs, right? I mean,
he could be a neutral
you could
legendary.
add him as a paladin hero for a while.
Neutral
Arthas,
legendary.
But...
Neutral legendary. Neutral
yeah,
legendary.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Neutral legendary. Very could be done. Sure.
I want because Arthas will just go in every one of my decks. Just over.
Well, here's the thing. You now know that you don't have to have a neutral legendary not be a hero at some point because we have Medivh the hero and we have Medivh the card, and so it's fine, right? So absolutely you could just add Arthas the card, and then at some future date, 2 years from now, Arthas becomes the Death Knight hero. That's totally fine. Precedent has been set. I could definitely see it.
That being said, I would not want to be in charge of designing that card because it better be good. Is all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, it could be like a Nixier or whatever, where it raises ghouls. You could also have it summon Sindragosa. You could also have. I mean, there's all sorts
Bring
of things.
back a character that's died this game or something.
Yeah, it could give you Frostborn a la Tyrion, right? Like all sorts of cool things could be done with that card. So, which one do you pick? I guess
it just better be good. It just better. be
how
good.
about it discover an effect? Either give yourself Frostborn, summon Sindragosa, or summon an army of the dead.
Oh, that's it. Okay, Dills wins. I want that now.
Done.
That'd be a sweet card.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing card.
You
could
decide.
play Arthas and do whatever the thing is you want Arthas to do. That'd be awesome.
Better, first, King Tyrannus Menethil card needs to be added, and Arthas just needs to battlecry kill King Tyrannus Menethil. That's it. That's all it's gonna do.
Yeah, that would be a super cool Tavern Brawl, right? Where you are the heroes battling, and it's like Arthas, and then like Menethil's just in the block of ice like the whole time, and then shatter him out. And yeah, cool stuff. Cool stuff could be done.
You mean Tyrion?
He means Tyrion.
I mean, sorry, Tyrion.
It's like his dad was very dead by that point.
Yes.
Yeah. And not locked in ice, just dead.
Just dead.
Yes.
Just dead. Well, his soul was locked in an icy sword. His soul was locked in an icy sword. All right, so to wrap this up, Dills, what's the top 3 things you want next year? In order. I want to know what your number 1 is, your number 2, and your number 3.
Well, for me, it's tournament mode, the true casual mode. But the number 1 thing for me, though those two are just kind of whatever. The number 1 thing is I want more limited modes. And I tweeted this, but I want Arena to stick around, but I want a draft, and I want a sealed, and I want whatever other cool thing they could come up with. I want more ways to play without constructing my deck before I go and queue up. I want to be presented with options and then have to, on the fly, come up with something out of those options. I want more of that kind of stuff. It's the funnest thing in Magic outside of Commander decks, and I think it could be the funnest thing in Hearthstone if it existed. So,
Jocelyn?
Number 1 for me.
I think, I know what 1 and 2 are. I don't really know what my third one would be.
I'll just
probably number 3. I think would probably be the social stuff, the clans and teams and guilds and stuff. I think that would be really cool. Number 2 is definitely tournament mode, and number 1 is the reworked ladder system. For sure. That is, I think, the biggest thing that I find frustrating in the game. There are other ways to host tournaments, and as much as it's a pain in the ass, it's at least doable. So my number 1 thing is I just want to rework the ladder system, and I think Dills Dills was totally right. I don't think we're going to see it in 2017 just because of the way the World Championship works. But I would really like to see, after our next World Championship, I'd really like to see something in 2018 where they just give a rework of everything. They could possibly rework the ladder system and not change the season length or something, but I agree. I think it's probably going to be a 2018 thing instead of a 2017 thing. But that's my number one.
My number one is Dills's. I want more. I want a new limited mode that is more nuanced. I want a deeper system than what Arena gives us. And I was so surprised to see a lack of that request in the responses to XR. I think part of it is because Hearthstone is a lot of people's first card game, and they don't have experience with limited because I think Arena is lacking.
Yeah.
And then other than that, number two is any mode where we play a best of format, whether it's best of 3, best of 5.
Yeah.
I do not care, and I don't even care if it's constructed or Arena. I just want a best of. At this
By the
point,
way, Hearthstone would do so much better than this than what you get with like Magic, and recently I played Hex. The way it works in Hex is you have like a 30-minute kind of like chess timer for the entire match, and sometimes you win and lose the game based on the fact that your timer ran out in like game 3. But Hearthstone, this problem is already eliminated because you just have per turn timers, right? So like it's already better, and Hearthstone just needs it. You're absolutely right, dude. Best of 3 format somehow.
best of 3, any kind. If I had to ask for one, it would be give us a mode that actually lines up with the esports you show us. That would be nice. Part of my ladder, like the exhaustion with the discussion of the ladder, is we can't change it because of HCT, but ladder doesn't prepare you for HCT really in any way, shape, or form.
I think that was actually the big part of when they finally came out and said they weren't working on tournament mode. That was part of my big tournament mode rant. The last time I really went off was that it's not HCT.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. It's just one of those things where it's just like it just jabs me in like my angry nerd. It jabs me right in my angry nerd. It's just like, why? This is dumb. It's dumb. I just want to yell dumb like as loud as possible every single time I am reminded that you can qualify for the HCT through our current ladder system. And it's not eloquent and it's not helpful to anyone, so I'll move on with my life. But
no, I mean that is just so crazy to me. It's like qualifying for the World Series because you won the home run derby. You know, you're just like, dude, what? You know? Like, huh?
I love that.
Those are two different things.
I freaking love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, and for third, I'd honestly Arthas. Arthas is my third. I agree with that dude, who's my new best friend. That guy. So, awesome. Well, this went way longer than I thought it would. Let's move directly into emails.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, did you get my message?
Yep.
Oh,
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails or crazy game stories, which we skipped over for time, to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Brenton J writes in and says, I was thinking back to the start of standard mode and when we also got some card nerfs. I imagine it's quite possible we'll get another round of nerfs sometime in the next few months. Why don't we ever get direct card buffs? If we have, I certainly missed it. We already mentioned one this episode. The only one, I think. One, do you think we'll ever see card buffs, most likely to the basic and classic sets? Two, what cards would you like to see buffed so we can expand our standard set strategies, and how might they be buffed? We've already seen card buffs. Whether we'll see future ones, I think it's just unlikely, right?
Well, they've said that they tend to nerf instead of buff because when you nerf a card, it mostly affects that specific card. But if you buff a card, there's just so many other potential problems it could create. So they've said that they prefer to nerf over buff. And I think the last time that we saw big buffs and changes and stuff was back in beta. I don't remember if we've really seen too many buffs outside of that beta period. Unless I'm totally wrong. I don't remember when the Unleash the Hounds buff was.
Unleash the Hounds was changed a bunch of times, but there was a period where it was 4 mana, and then they moved it to 3, and that's the last time it was altered. But outside of that, there has not been very many cards that have actually been moved in the other direction. And I actually personally don't think you need to. I really do think that nerfing is mostly the way to go because, and we had somebody posted on our Reddit that we missed the point of this conversation when it came to bad cards and why they must exist. But reading through it, I was just like, I don't even need to respond to this guy because it's like missing the point of, when you start the game, you see this card, and then as you go through, you see better cards, and then you realize why they're better, and your deck gets better, and things like that. Those steps have to happen. And so what we don't need to do is like make Magma Rager better. What we really just have to do is just make the cards that are oppressive to other cards more in line, and then those other cards by default do get buffed, right? So when a card that's causing problems gets nerfed, other cards have to then kind of take their place, or those cards get more powerful in comparison to that card. So they are getting a buff. But you can really get into problems when you buff a card and then realize, like when they made Unleash the Hounds 2 mana, they were like, holy crap, this is way too good. You can really kind of create more issues than you're solving when you buff cards. So it's better to just, a card gets nerfed, and then you just start looking through the collection to find a card that fits better in that particular spot or does something comparable that then you can kind of work around. When you start buffing cards, you start to get into all sorts of weirdness. Now, that being said, I would not mind if they did slight nerfs and buffs at the end of every single set period
Season
or whatever it is.
yeah.
When the standard cards turn over, some cards get slight buffs and slight nerfs and just like one integer here and there. That I think would be the extent I'd want to see, though. So outside of that, I don't think we need it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it if it makes sense.
Yeah, in terms of making or like expanding standard set strategies, we've talked about it ad nauseum, but I would, as opposed to buffing cards that are in the standard set, I would just like to see the cards that are in the standard set changed. Take some out, put some in from other existing sets. And this isn't coming from a place of me being like annoyed at specific cards. Like, man, I'd sure love to never see Ragnaros again. I just think it'd be more fun and more interesting if that set got changed up.
Yeah, I think the only problem with that is it starts to get too complicated. Right now, it's really easy for everyone to understand who isn't necessarily playing the game all the time because sets are already very set, right? Like you know what the cards are from GVG. If you start saying like, okay, well, Dr. Boom's going in Evergreen, so he can always be played there, then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, but wait, he's GVG, so are there other ones that, and it starts to blur the lines between the sets, and I think that's why you're probably not going to see that.
So the second part of the question was, which cards would we like to see buffed? If there's any card that I'd like to see buffed, it goes back to a nerf, and I would like to see Warsong Commander become a 2-drop. That's it.
I'm with you there.
Because right now it's like objectively worse than Raid Leader.
I'd like to see Blade Flurry made playable again. Doesn't need to be as good as it was.
We talked about that for a long time ago. But that if there's any card, I think it's almost like when they over nerf a card, I wouldn't mind seeing them bring it back up. Just touch. Yeah.
Or Blade Flurry is another
Starving
one.
Buzzard. Maybe you could make that a 4-cost card, right, instead of a 5-cost card. I think that would be okay. I don't think we'd see like Hunters right now are kind of struggling. I wouldn't mind seeing that maybe become a viable Hunter strategy. It's kind of like a Cult Master, but you don't have to die. You can summon. Would be nearly as bad, right? It'd still be a 7-cost combo to do that with Unleash the Hounds, right? So,
and to Joss's point, I feel like getting a card for free you may not have had before outweighs you having to take an extra minute or two to read the new card that showed up in your collection.
Why would you get a card for free though?
Because if we're removing cards that currently exist in Standard, it would be to make room for cards that don't currently exist in Standard. So if you say you made Dr. Boom, for example, bad example, I don't want Dr. Boom to be added to the Standard set, but for example, you made him Standard, anyone who didn't have him just gets him added to their Standard set.
But you'd still have to open him or craft him, wouldn't you? Or
No. I'm saying if we did this, he would just become a Standard card. Everyone gets a copy.
And everyone gets a copy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it no longer becomes a disenchantable card. Or a craftable card. Well, I guess you could craft it.
Yeah, I doubt that would be how they do it, honestly.
No.
Yeah. They'd still want you to craft them, I'm sure. By the way, here's the most annoying thing about Adventures in a free-to-play account. It's a little off topic, but I was trying to like make a tempo mage because I had most of the cards to do it, but I can't just craft a Flame Waker. I was like, dude, this sucks. You have to actually go like get the adventure
And play the
and all that.
adventure,
Yeah. Oh man, that is frustrating.
You will be able to soon, though, right?
Well, but by the
Wonder.
time I will be able to, it will no longer be a standard card. So
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
yeah, so that's a huge like a problem I don't ever contend with in my regular account, but I feel the pain of all you free to play players out there who are like, I have all the cards for this deck. I don't have this one, right? So like Totem Golem you can get from I think it's Totem Golem you can get from the Grand Tournament, but the Tunnel Trog is from
It's
an
from
adventure.
League of
So-
Explorers.
Yeah, so it's like you can't, it's like damn, that whole deck like doesn't work now. because that friggin' card. So it's
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is frustrating.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's annoying. But what are you gonna do? Get rid of get rid of adventure? I definitely prefer expansions to adventures, but I still like adventures. I wouldn't want to see them go
I
away
do too. I
completely.
think maybe there's like a period of time after which you can just start crafting adventure cards or something.
Do like Heroes of the Storm when it's a new hero, just have it be an overcosted dust amount.
That's another option too. It's like it costs more to craft it, but you can, right?
Yeah.
There's a way.
It's an option.
So-
It's an option.
Anyway, like it's just we had at the very beginning we talked a little bit about it, but it's something I kind of forgot, and then I suddenly remembered when we're talking about these changes. Like, oh man, that's frustrating.
Yeah, that's okay. If you're gonna get off topic, at least you stayed on the topic of Hearthstone.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm a jerk. I'm just like, hey guys, you want to talk about Star Wars? And and Dills is like,
That happens
yes.
sometimes, too.
But yeah, and Jocelyn is like, yes, if it's the new ones. And then the listeners
I
are just like,
technically have seen all of the Star Wars.
I know. And then everyone is like,
The Star Wars.
The Star Wars.
The Star
I've seen it.
Wars.
So thanks, Mom. Oh, did you go see the new The Star Wars movie?
You guys want to go see the Star Wars?
That's fantastic.
Screw you guys.
Is it categorized under T or S? In that case, is my question. Dills, who's the next email from?
This comes from Megan. Well met, Cluckers from York, England. Oh, well, look at that. I hope you all had a delightful Christmas. I'm a huge fan of Hearthstone and admittedly somewhat of an obsessive collector when it comes to games, especially Blizzard titles. Due to this, I've been somewhat ignoring Hearthstone recently and digging deep into Overwatch because, yay, festive loot boxes. What I would have loved is for Hearthstone to have something similar in relation to seasonal events where you can try and earn seasonal rewards such as alternative heroes, skins, card backs, alternative card art, and other joyous things. These could be earned through WoW-style RNG rolled quests and or be slightly fair. Special seasonal packs similar to the Overwatch loot system where the packs are themed for a certain time. You can have the chance to unlock these seasonal items through opening the packs, earn the same way, or purchased as regular packs are now. Just a shower thought I had. What do you guys think? I would have loved to see a Christmassy promotion, but I don't think we can randomize and then have them go away in Hearthstone unless they're just
Cosmetics.
yeah, cosmetics that like put a Santa hat on my Dr. Boom or something if I open that pack, right?
Oh
like,
God, I would
Which
love that.
I
Why
love
keep
that
using-
idea.
as an example, but I think the best way to do it would be a Tavern Brawl where the thing you earn is like some sort of cosmetic thing, and then whatever.
I really like the idea of loot boxes, though. Opening loot boxes is so fun. Opening card packs is so fun. Like, if you could get maybe a seasonal card pack that had, like, guaranteed, 4 cards and a thing, and then the thing was something cosmetic, and the cards could be, like, from any set
here's
ever.
a Santa hat, put it on any card you want or
Or
something.
something like that, or card backs, or put Christmas lights around my hero portrait, or there's
Sure.
so many different custom things that you could do, and I think they'd be really successful in Hearthstone. I would love to see a loot box type thing in Hearthstone. I would love it.
Well, just see, yeah, but just any kind of customization or cosmetic thing beyond what we already have, which is mostly card backs and a few alternate heroes. Stuff like that would be great. I mean, we already did have a Christmas card back last year. There's no way to get that this year, right?
Nope, there isn't.
That's I could have sworn that was gonna, like, in my head last year. I'm like, this is gonna be the first card to repeat next year. Nope.
Yeah, no, it's the Winter Veil card back, which I think was the December for getting higher than rank 20. I think that was the December card back for last year, and no, there's no way to get it this year. So
They should dish that sucker back out. That and the pumpkin one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that there's actually that we get a couple of emails about that every once in a while of like, why can't I get these card backs? There are big holes in my collection.
I've had
And,
12 years in World of
unfortunately-
Warcraft to get a Sinister Squashling pet. I've like every year. It may not have been in vanilla. Someone's going to get me on that. But come on, it's a card back. Just give it away again. It's Christmas, damn it. But yeah, I would love any and all weird little things to make to give me a little bit of flair, man. I don't like just add a little hat to my hero portrait. I don't care.
Well, and you're like, I wouldn't even care if my opponent could see it or not. I just want to be able to see it. Like,
I would want my opponent to see it though. I want to be completely honest. I want my opponent to see it.
it would be cool, but it wouldn't be necessary really for me to still enjoy the cosmetics. The cosmetics are always for me. So.
I would like to be able to buy boards that my opponent can see. They can only see it if they own it or if they end up playing against me. Like I want an Ice Crown to be my board.
That is a cool idea too. A way to lock in your Hearthstone board. You should have put it on your wish list.
It's not on my top 3. It's definitely not on my top 3. I think it'd be really cool. Not on my top 3. Who's the final email from, Joss?
This one comes to us from Matt, aka Cheese Death.
There's worse
Says-
ways to die.
Dearest Pissy Poultry, next spring we will see our first standard rotation. So before we get into what that means, let's take a look back at the first standard year. What was the meta prior to the release of standard? What was OP at the time? Has standard mode accomplished what you hoped it would? And how much will the year of the unicorn affect the game? I can't wait for the year of the unicorn. I think it's going to totally change everything just because we're all going to be happy, sparkly unicorns. And so everyone's just going to love it. And there's going to be no more negative feedback because we're unicorns. And yeah, that's how unicorns work.
Okay. First thing, pushing up my glasses. This year was the first year of standard rotations.
Yes.
And
Well,
then,
this was the first standard year, but next year is going to be the next. Yeah, and brain's
The
not
first
working anymore,
rotation.
guys. I'm trying.
Yes. What was OP before the release of standard? It was Secret Paladin, right?
Yeah.
Secret Paladin and Patron.
Yeah, although Patron was nerfed
Patron
before
was
the
nerfed, yeah.
rotation actually happened. But
Yeah. It was still kind of hung around a little bit afterwards, though. It was a
hung around for
completely
little
different
bit,
deck.
Yeah.
but-
Well, Patron hung around because Secret Paladin was still good, and it was pretty good against Secret Paladin.
Yes.
So, has standard mode accomplished what you hoped it would? I think so. I mean, I think it has definitely made the game a little bit more like there was when we were just dealing with the cards and all the cards were available. There was just OP decks, and while yes, Shaman has kind of been the OP deck of the current
Of this
time, I think.
rotation, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's more tempered than it was at the time of Secret Paladin. I definitely think Shaman, while it is very good, is definitely not like this unbeatable force, right? It's good, it's very good, but everything's a little closer to it, I think, than what we were seeing with Secret Paladin. So that's actually happened. So I think it has. I don't
And
know.
I think-
we have
I
no
think-
idea how much Year of the Unicorn is going to affect the game at all.
or if it will even be the year of the unicorn. But I'm pulling for it. I want it to be the year of
if
the
it's
unicorn.
not the year of the unicorn,
It's
I
like
quit.
the next on
I
the
quit.
little wheel, right?
It is
Which
the next on the
stuff.
wheel, but
Yeah.
if it's not year of the unicorn, you guys are gonna have to find another co-host. I'm out. I'm done.
No. We'll just have episode, whatever it ends up being, it'll probably be over 200. Will just be the Hug Cast, where we just all kind of powwow and I guess support you. I'm going to be a little disappointed if it's not the year of the unicorn as well, because I spotted that on the wheel. I'm like, it's a unicorn! It's a unicorn on the wheel! There's a unicorn on the wheel. I think there's also a Crocolisk, but yeah. That would just be a Florida expansion if it's a Crocolisk. So. Or you could argue Australia, but
But yeah, I think the big test of standard, I think, is going to come in April when we see the next set of stuff rotate out, and we kind of get into the first time where it's been planned, if that makes sense. So it's like right now they brought standard mode in, but there's still stuff like League of Explorers and TGT that weren't necessarily planned to rotate out at the time of their release. So I think next year is going to be the stuff where we've got like all the stuff I guess not the unicorn year, but the year after that. Wait, anyways, whenever we have when standard is just what they planned, so it's like old gods going forward.
So yeah, you're right. I think what you're trying to say is it won't be until next year that the sets we have were designed post Standard Wild.
Yes.
And that would be, I'm not even sure how much that
the...
really affected, because they may have, well, probably not. I'm not going to complicate the narrative with that point. I'm going to instead move into the has Standard accomplished what we wanted it to. And for me, I was hoping Standard would bring a little more deck diversity, a little more shakeups by removing cards, and so that when cards were added, that it had a big effect on the game. And I think it 100% absolutely has accomplished that.
The fact that we have Mean Streets of Gadgetzan decks being played while Mean Streets of Gadgetzan is released means that Standard has done its job.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest problem was when TGT got released.
Mm-hmm.
It almost had no impact on the meta, and that will never happen again, I think. So, at least it shouldn't, unless they really screw something up. But yeah, so that is, if that's the only thing we really get out of it, I think yes, absolutely. The other thing too, though, is I want to point out the negative of what Standard has done, and this isn't on Standard itself. This is on Blizzard and on the community around it. But people act like when cards go out of rotation that they like are just gone. That card is dead, gone, doesn't exist anymore. Wild needs to be, and I really hope this happens, needs to be treated as a real thing. I know you guys hear me kind of like talk about it a lot on this show that Wild is still really cool, but there's some crazy stuff happening in Wild that you just can't get anymore in Standard, and I wish more people would treat it as a legitimate format. But it's on Blizzard to make that happen, honestly.
We could have more Wild tournaments. That's also possible.
Well, or like we said in the past, a Wild champion and a Standard champion, then there'd be people who concentrate on Wild, and that would be cool. You'd have new names, new faces, and more interesting games. Things that people aren't used to seeing would be happening. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the decks you run up, like I'm playing an OP deck, you're playing an OP deck. Let's see who gets there first, kind of thing. It's really fun and exciting to watch. So.
It's okay.
Whose penis is bigger?
Yes.
That just happened.
100% on purpose too. There didn't need to be a snicker or anything. I love it. I think that would be wonderful, and it would be okay, right? If like a lot of games ended on turn 3, because who cares?
Yeah,
that's the point of the format.
Yeah, the point of the format is that we're both trying to do crazy stuff, and it's fun.
Who gets there?
Also, though, like I do pretty well in Wild, playing my milkshake deck and weird, crazy stuff. Just as long as I'm kind of ready to counter what the other people are doing, and I know what they're doing, I know what's kind of possible, then it's really cool and it's quite fun. So, more of that, man. People aren't experiencing it enough, and then they just think that those cards are just non-existent, and it sucks.
Yeah.
They exist and they're fun.
I overall am very happy with Standard. I would like to see
overall
the base.
I'm very happy. That's like my one drawback to it.
Yeah, I'd like to see the base set shake it up in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, we've discussed that. Not going to get back into that. And I think it's going to do it for the show. Again, if you have emails, send them to tacpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you next year. Thanks again, patrons, supporting us at patreon.com/TAC. If you enjoy the Angry Chicken, you want to support us, it's the best way to do so. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H. and Peter Williams. Find all of the back catalog of Angry Chicken episodes and other fine podcasts at amove.tv or youtube.com/amovetv. Thank you for those of you dropping us iTunes reviews. We've got Matthew Kelly this week, Crawduds, Mercy Mourns, and Nazarami, who said, not Scott Johnson, yet still good, which I take as a very high compliment.
Yeah.
And also made me laugh out loud alone in my office. So thank you, Nazarami.
We did it!
Yay, we finally made
it.
it.
Without Scott Johnson.
You can follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast. You can catch us live, usually Tuesday nights at 4 p.m. Eastern. On twitch.tv/amovetv. We will be returning to that next week. You can catch us live virtually on any device, thanks to alphageekmedia.com, and a huge thanks to BrianGriffithMusic.com for our intro and outro music. Dills, where can folks find your work?
The thing I want to point to the most right now is the stream, twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF. We'll be returning tonight after our Christmas vacation, so I'm excited. There will also be a New Year's stream, so if you guys don't have plans for New Year's and you'd like to come hang out We'll be counting down the New Year's for every time zone as it happens. It's really fun. We've done it before, so this I think is the third year we'll be doing it. And then I want to point out the new podcast with me and Justin Robert Young, 1-900 Wrestling. It's a show, as you might guess, about wrestling, and it's really fun. We are on the road to WrestleMania, so please come check it out. The RSS feed apparently is like live now, or maybe about to go live. So I'm sorry I don't have a link yet, but should be up and running by the end of this evening, I think. And actually, we're going to be doing a show right after this. So anybody in the chat room who wants to hang out, that's going to be happening right after this show. So, yeah, check it out.
Yeah. Jocelyn, how about yourself?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone who donated to Extra Life because we more than hit our goal. So thank you so much for everyone who supported the Children's Miracle Network. You guys are awesome.
Oh, that's effing great to hear. So
that's it.
You've been promoting for like three or four episodes now, so that's fantastic. Thank you everyone who did that. I'm on Twitter at Garrett Art, and Joss and I's WoW show is coming back next week for Azeroth. Check that out. Other than that, I just want to thank everyone. It's been a fantastic flipping year. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Dills. Could not do the show without you, especially today when I'm kind of tired and out of it. I'm surprised, Jocelyn, how fantastically you soldiered through this, even though you're not feeling well. Thank you to Team 5. A, for making an awesome game, and B, for putting up with some of the crap that we yell at you sometimes. And thank you to the Angry Chicken and the Clucker audience. You guys are awesome. Thanks for continuing to listen. Thank you for continuing to support us. And we'll see you next year. Job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes! That was the saddest job's done, Jocelyn.
Sorry. I'm so happy.
You sound like the entire year's worth of shows is weighing on you at the moment.
Yeah. There is another Skywalker. That was basically.
I prefer seagulls. Stop it now.
Well done. Well done.
That's all I got. Oh, that was delightful.
I ran out of water about 25 minutes ago, so my throat's just like, screw you, Jocelyn. I hate your face.
You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to rub my Hearthstone and go home.